Just wait for some people to get here. Tonight is the Eric Carmen edition. It will become clear why. Actually, if you know your Eric Carmen, you probably already know why. Let me get the chat up. I think we've done the Eric Carmen edition before, now that I think about it, though. That is too far away. Oh, that's too close. How's that? Well, it's still too far away. This needs to be lower. All right, so Eric Carmen, we lost people really quick. We do not have a long live stream this evening. We're going to pop in and say hello.
You mean Cartman?
What?
Cartman?
No, Carmen. Eric Carmen.
Oh.
You don't know your Eric Carmen, apparently.
Are you talking about the South Park guy?
Oh, no. All right, I'm sorry. We're just getting the chat up and everything. I'm sorry. Stick with us. I gotta sign in. What's going on? Is there a lock? Oh, there it is. Sorry, don't leave. I should have done this all already. I got a new laptop, so I'm not signed in. I'm working very hard not to have to say my password out loud. Oh. All right. Matt wanted to do a two-step verification. Almost there. Ah! That was a long 2 minutes. All right. Franklin Farmstead, shalom. Dustin Pribble, howdy. Tactical Homestead is here. How you doing, sir? Oh, you just finished your live stream. That's good. All right, so cool points to whoever figures out why it's the Eric Carmen edition. What are we talking about? Monkeypox. What are we drinking? Tonight we are drinking a Highland Brewing Black Mocha Stout. It's very good. I actually prefer porters to stouts. And I've got a porter in there too. We'll go, if I finish this one, I usually talk so much that I don't finish my beer. But if I finish my beer, I'll go get the porter too. Actually, I'll send my woman to get me a porter.
Your woman's still up.
I'll wake her up. Actually, Mariah was going to do the live stream with us, and then she chickened out.
I did not.
You did. She chickened out. Dustin Pribble is drinking Killian Irish Red. I like the Irish Red. That was one of my gateway beers into darker beer. So, saw an interesting meme today. So, to my mind, this formula shortage is mind-blowing to me. Like, I don't understand how they let this happen. You know, there's nothing that can undermine their credibility worse than a formula shortage. You know, Tactical Homestead mentioned me in a recent video. Link the video and I'll go watch it, and maybe we can have another round of responses. That was fun last time, Tactical Homestead. but this just, it strikes at the root of their credibility with their main demographic. Their main demographic is suburban white women. Uh, and they've told all these suburban white women for all these years, that they can take the pain out of childbirth, and, don't breastfeed your baby. Oh, you can't breastfeed. They've made this big stand and trying to get every kid ever on formula so they can get every woman possible back in the workforce. Very, very interesting side note to this. I have an obsession with the French Revolution. I haven't indulged it in a long time, but there was a time in my life where I just read everything I could on the French Revolution. Had some Truly with the neighbor. What is Truly, Franklin Farmstead? Hey, Rat's here. And in the run-up to the French Revolution, the French nobility had this policy where after a woman gave birth, they took the baby. She gave the baby to the local church to keep during the day, and she went back out to the field and got back to work as soon as possible, and the church would feed the baby sweetened milk. Very, very young age, like weeks old babies, maybe like 1 week. I mean, very, very, very young. Because they needed all the workers in the fields they could get, and of course this had terrible effects on everybody. Oh, it's cocktail in a can. I have seen those, Franklin Farmstead. So the oligarchs and the oppressors have always not. Now look, the French nobility were sweethearts compared to the Jacobins and all those guys. But they were still oppressors and tyrants. And the oppressors and the tyrants are always trying to get the babies away from the mamas and get the mamas back out to work. Hey, Isaac, how you doing, sir? And the same thing is true today. They want women back in the workforce. They want them, being good at little economic engines. They can't do that if they're at home raising their children to be independent thinkers and healthy, free people. Oh my gosh, Isaac, Randy Weaver died, huh? I did not know this. Let's look this up real quick. Randy Weaver is dead. That should be a video in of itself. When did this happen? Okay. He died May 11th. Huh. Oh, I didn't know he was a Green Beret. All right, Weaver's. I don't know why I'm going to Wikipedia. Okay, sees aftermath, later life. Weaver's daughter Sarah posted online that he died on May 11th, 2002 after being sick since at least mid-April. The cause of death was not given. He was 74 years old. Huh. That might take over the rest of the live stream. Those of you who don't know, and I'm sure all of you do know if you're on this live stream, you're looking old, bro. That's harsh, man. I am old. Randy Weaver was the central figure at the Ruby Ridge shootout. His family, he had the he was a survivalist and, apparently a Green Beret. Hey, Clancy Russell, how you doing? I had no idea he was a Green Beret. Anyway, he sold a shotgun to, or no, he didn't sell the shotgun. I think I've heard two different stories. I think one story I heard is that he sold the shotgun, and then I heard another story that someone just brought him the shotgun, and he cut the barrel down on a shotgun, and he cut it down like an inch too shorter, so it wasn't very short. Hey, Cody Moss. Oh, half an inch too short. And then the shotgun got used in a robbery, and it was used to shoot a clerk in they threw over a gas station. And so the feds lost their damn minds. And they show up at Randy Weaver's house on Ruby Ridge with this like full tactical team. And his son and his buddy are out hunting. They're hunting. Because this is a survivalist family. They hadn't had meat in a long time. And so his son and his buddy are out hunting. And the dog's with them. And the dog, smells the federal agents and takes off into the woods after the federal agents. And the federal agents shoot the dog. So the son and the friend fire on the federal agents. They hadn't announced themselves. They hadn't said who they haven't identified themselves. They just started shooting the dog. And so Randy's oldest son and his friend engaged the federal agents, and I think they killed it. I know they killed at least one. I don't remember how many. I know they killed one. Maybe they put a bullet in another. And then they fall back, and they go back to the compound. And so then the FBI is like, this is the Clinton years too, and they deploy like a battalion. And they've got snipers everywhere, and they're demanding Weaver turn himself in, and all this stuff. And they end up shooting the son, who he had gone out to the barn, I think, to like take care of the cow or something. I can't remember. He wasn't doing anything crazy. And on his way out to the barn, they shot his son. And then they end up shooting his pregnant wife. Oh, and she was holding the baby in her arms. And they shot through the baby and killed Randy Weaver. Someone correct me if I'm getting some of this wrong. And all Weaver had ever done was cut a shotgun barrel down 2 inches too short. It was insanity. I mean, it was worse than insanity. We all should have risen up right there at that moment, and we should have burned down. All of our institutions should have burned to the ground right there. I think Weaver ends up getting acquitted on all charges. He settles for $3 million. And apparently he just dies. At 74 years of age. Horrible story. Horrible indictment of our government. She was holding the baby and they shot her through the door. I believe it killed her and the baby. I don't remember what happened to the friend. As far as I know, Randy never shot anybody. As far as I know, he never shot back. Let's read the siege real quick. Ruby Ridge was the site of an 11-day siege in 1992 in Boundary County, Idaho, near Naples. It began on August 21st when deputies of the United States Marshal Service initiated action to apprehend and arrest Randy Weaver under a bench warrant after his failure to appear on a firearms charge, having, Weaver said, been given the wrong date for his court appearance. He had attempted to sell a pair of illegal sawed-off shotguns to a federal informer within the Aryan Nation white supremacist group. Weaver refused to surrender and remained at home with his family and friend Kevin Harris. The hostage rescue team of the Federal Bureau of Investigation became involved as the siege developed. During the Marshal Service reconnoiter of the Weaver property, 6 U.S. Marshals encountered Harris and Sammy Weaver, Randy's 14-year-old son, in woods near the family cabin. A shootout took place. This is a really biased, this is Wikipedia, of course. I don't know why the hell I'm reading Wikipedia. A shootout took place. U.S. Marshals shot the Weaver's dog Striker, then shot Sammy Weaver in the back as he ran away, killing him. Oh, I got that part wrong. I thought they killed him later. They shot him in the back as he ran away. During the firefight, Harris shot Deputy U.S. Marshal William Francis Deegan in the chest, resulting in Deegan's death. In the subsequent siege of the Weaver residence, led by the FBI, Weaver's wife Vicky was shot and killed by an FBI sniper while standing in her home holding her 10-month-old daughter. Harris was also critically wounded and almost died during the subsequent standoff. Weaver was shot once. That's Randy. Randy was shot once. He was not holding a weapon at the time. All casualties occurred in the first 2 days of the operation. The siege and standoff were ultimately resolved by civilian negotiator Bo Gritz, who was instrumental in getting Weaver to allow Harris to get medical attention. Harris surrendered and was arrested on August 30th. Weaver and his 3 daughters surrendered the next day after being convinced by Gritz that there was no other sensible solution. Weaver was charged with multiple crimes relating to the Ruby Ridge incident, a total of 10 counts, including the original firearms charges. Attorney Gary Spence handled Weaver's defense and successfully argued that Weaver's actions were justifiable as self-defense. Spence did not call any witnesses for the defense, rather focusing on attacking the credibility of FBI agents and forensic technicians. The judge dismissed 2 counts after hearing prosecution witness testimony. The jury acquitted Weaver of all remaining charges except 2, one of which the judge set aside. He was found guilty of 1 count, failure to appear, for which he was fined $10,000 and sentenced to 18 months in prison. He was credited with time served plus an additional 3 months. Sorry, baby. He was then released. Kevin Harris was acquitted of all criminal charges. In August 1995, the U.S. government avoided trial on a civil lawsuit filed by the Weavers by awarding the 3 surviving daughters $1 million each and Randy Weaver $100,000 over the deaths of Sammy and Dickie Weaver. So this horrific blight on our nation's conscience, to go along with all the other horrific blights on our nation's conscience. Yes, the same sniper who was shot the baby and wife was also present at Waco, and I think they just tried to give him some position in some agency. But yeah, Waco and Ruby Ridge were a lot of the same people. Oh God, this guy again. I don't know if you're talking about Weaver or just me. Yeah, they shot the son in the back. Hey, Lance Corporal veteran, how you doing, sir? Everyone recalling their reason for causa belli, I see. FBI gonna have issues future. Most not so compliant. They cheat, only way they can survive, not that bright. Guilty in Bundy murders, too. Man gunned down on video. Bundy murders. What was that guy's name? I did a video on him. The guy on the horse at the bird sanctuary. What was his name? They shot him with his hands up in the air. Someone will know his name. Finnegan. Lavoy Finicum. Thank you, Isaac. You're a damn encyclopedia, young man. Hey, Nita Valier. There is now little to no confidence left in the unwoke in the U.S. So, but yeah, all the federal law enforcement agencies have been completely compromised. The Clintons did that. They came in and they redid the entire federal law enforcement. They turned it into an Arkansas style. They used to call it the Dixie Mafia. They just turned the FBI, the entire Justice Department, into a left-wing version of the Dixie Mafia. I don't think I realized the Bundys lost a son, or maybe I forgot. I need to look that up. Hey, Jesse, I was about to call tonight, then I saw the Beard and Bearded was on, so here I am. So has anyone figured out what the Eric Carmen edition is? Eric Carmen wrote and performed that famous song, all by myself, don't want to be all by myself. That is right. The bearded gringo has abandoned me for the evening. Hey, Keith is here. Keith got it. That doesn't surprise me. Keith is a music lover and expert. Used to have a music business. This guy, oh, Lance Corporal Veteran says this guy named Joe from the Tactical Wisdom channel is saying the far left are organizing for another fiery but peaceful summer of love. My guess is they're waiting for the Roe v. Wade uh, decision to get released, and I think then you're going to see a bunch of crazy white women running around setting trash cans on fire. The sure giveaway of an alphabet agent is someone who suggests something illegal and then supplies the stuff to make it happen. You can't be wrong even if it's your best friend. That is 100% right. The federal agent will show up and say, hey, I got explosives. Let's kidnap the governor. It's gonna be the Fed every time. Every time. And even if it's your best friend, like Rat Route says, they got to him, they caught him with his kid with marijuana in his car or something, and he's like, doing, they put the screws to him. Oh, we're gonna, take your kids away from you. Oh, we're gonna take your pension or whatever. Oh, Keith Martin saw Carmen in concert with the Raspberries. That's awesome. But yeah, I'm assuming whenever they release this this decision, if it doesn't change, please God, don't let it change. That yeah, the lefties are already going to go nuts. Antifa's already had some attacks, some little stuff. They attacked a crisis pregnancy center. Oh wow, Fauci is already killing children in Africa by testing monkeypox vaccines that will never work and aren't necessary. Lance Corporal Veteran says, personally, they won't have enough spontaneous recruits this time. Too many people more worried about the economy to riot over abortion. I don't know. Abortion is so important to them. Their whole worldview seems to hinge on that, killing babies in the womb. I don't know why. I heard Atlanta has already started to get violent this week. How does it look down there? I haven't heard anything. Atlanta is always violent. I mean, that's just been that way for a while now, probably 3 or 4 years. The murder rate's just been going up and up and up and up and up. So probably, but it's actually pretty lawless down there. They're having street races all the time. Most of it doesn't get reported. People be too hungry to riot if what I see coming comes. I think hungry people are more likely to riot because they need food. Okay, Mountain Truth 1 Deeds asked, does anyone know what the monkeypox is from? Gonna guess a needle involved. Fauci killed in Africa decades ago. People just don't look into it. My understanding, Mountain Truth, is that monkeypox is a monkey version of like smallpox, but like not that virulent or deadly. It only spreads through bodily fluids, and right now only gay men are getting it. Of course, these days you have to have, say, men who have sex with men, because men who have sex, there's a subgroup of men who have sex with men who say they're not gay somehow. It sucks that they stole that word, wrecked it, and now they don't even use it to describe anything anymore. Isaac says, I really hope you carry when you're in that city. Isaac knows, that I work in Atlanta and travel around. And I usually don't. And here's why. I'm in and out of the truck a lot. And I don't want to leave a weapon in the truck. And I can't really carry into people's houses. The company that we subcontract for is not okay with that. So I can't carry into people's houses. That means I'd have to leave it in the truck, and I'm just not comfortable with that. Now, I'm a hypocrite because whenever I get this AR-9 build finished, I am going to keep that in the truck, but I'm going to secure it. I'm going to lock it. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to do it yet. But I'm not gonna have a gun get stolen and end up in the wrong hands. If I can't keep it on my person, then something much bigger has to happen. Clancy Russell says, I'm from Oklahoma and no food shortages. Any in your area? Well, the price of eggs has doubled. Uh, the shelves they're not bare, but they're very, very sparse. And, they've started putting gaps between products. And there's nothing behind the products. It used to be stuff would be filled all the way back and all the shelves were crammed full. And, it was get as much stuff in, the limited space as you can. And it's not that way anymore. Now there's gaps on the shelves. Not like there's gaps, but there's like spacing, and so there's a couple inches between all the different categories and everything. That's why they make high point guns. Scotty John says, I never heard the monkeypox transmission was sexually transmitted that until I watched another prepared channel. It's not necessarily sexually transmitted. It's transmitted by bodily fluids. It's just that sex is the main way we exchange bodily fluids in this day and age. Tactical Homestead put it in the air box. That's interesting. That is actually an interesting idea, Tactical Homestead. I have to think on that. Yeah, Les Jones says that the products are thin in California. Mike Farmer, good evening, sir. Evening all. I guess monkeypox is the next event and the WHO will have their say. Oh yes, they will have their say. And there's very few things they'll freak out about as much as a disease that only affects gay men. Because that's something else they can't have happening. They can't have, gay sex being hindered. All right, Anarchy Television. Good name. Some places I work in do not allow carry, so I just put a 38 snub nose Smith & Wesson airweight in my pocket. Problem solved, but still armed. That's good. $5.59 diesel at China Mart. People don't understand how much diesel affects the economy. Everything, every aspect of our economy is touched by the price of diesel. And when diesel is that expensive, everything else is going to go up. Everything around us is touched by the price of diesel. This beer was delivered in a diesel truck. Your ambulances and fire trucks run on diesel. Your tow truck runs on diesel. Everything that gets delivered, I'm not telling you men anything you don't know. Oh, you'll know this. I'm talking. So if they're going to let the price of diesel go through the roof, everything's going to go through the roof. And the owner-operator truckers are going to be run out of business, too. And then we'll just have these giant truck companies left. And that's going to take a huge amount of flexibility out of the supply chain. A huge amount of flexibility and a huge amount of cushion. Those owner-operators, they can start up and stop much quicker than big companies. An owner-operator can just say, well, it ain't worth my time to drive this much, and he can cut back on his driving. Or he can say, oh, wow, there's huge money, and they can speed up and slow down, not drive faster, you know what I mean? They can drive more or drive less depending. So it's a cushion in the system. And they're going to run all those guys out of business with these diesel prices. And also the fact that they can't get new trucks. Everything has been on a truck, yep. If you need to carry Ruger LCP 380 or LCP Max, I'm interested in the LCP Max. I don't like just the regular LCP. It's too small. I can hold on to it, but I don't. Of course, it's better than nothing too. So and that's what you're saying, Rat Route, is if what I'm bitching about is not being able to carry because of concealment issues, something like the LCP takes that away, and you still have, I think it's seven rounds of 380 if I'm not mistaken. Food riots. Here's what's going to happen, Bear Claw. People are going to form these fake semi-official committees to go around and collect all the food to distribute it fairly. This has happened before. This isn't a new idea to me. This happened in the French Revolution again, where these people just declared themselves a local committee of safety, and they went to everyone who they thought had food, confiscated everyone's food, and, allegedly to put it in one place, and then EC9. I have an EC9. Actually, my oldest son has it right now. I could get it back from him though. Hillbilly, what is your outlook on the near future? We'll come back to that just now. What did Eric Cartman do now? This chat is going too fast for me to keep up. I'm sorry if I'm missing stuff. And of course, once they got your food, they didn't ever distribute it back out. But who cares? Even if they did distribute it back out, they weren't giving you as much as you had before. And so the thing is, it wasn't like, raiders coming in the middle of the night, and you could say, oh, these are bandits and I could fight them. These were people coming in the middle of the day with like official titles and like little colored things on their shirt that they're semi-official, and they had an air of authority about them, and it can be very hard for people to resist that authority. Something that if they feel like it's legitimate or if it's authority, it's very hard for us to resist that and tell it no, which is a good thing. It lets us live together in a society. But then it means the evil people don't necessarily come in the middle of the night so the dog can bark and you can repel borders. It might come in the middle of the day with a truck and a clipboard, and it might be very, very hard to resist. And so that to me is the real danger to me, because a riot's not going to affect me. By the time rioters got to where I'm at, they're exhausted and they just want to drink a water. This is the last place a riot shows up. You couldn't even find this place with a map. Maybe with a map, but you would go past the dirt road to get here, and you'd go, well, there's nothing down there. Then you'd come down the dirt road to the second dirt road, and you'd be like, oh, that's just a driveway that goes to that trashy double wide trailer. And if you went past that trashy double wide trailer, you'd say, well, that ends right there at those two even trashier double wide trailers. And if you walked past all of those double wide trailers, and then it looks like it ends again, and you've got to go even farther. So no one's coming down here with a riot, but someone who's got time and has created himself a fake position and has tricked all these people into thinking that there's some kind of official thing, and he's going door to door with a clipboard. That guy is a threat. He's a threat to me. He's a threat to everybody. Hillbilly loves his G3. It's a great rifle. Okay, so Hillbilly asked, what is my take on the near future? And I have long since stopped making predictions about timing and specific events, because people have been doing this since the early 60s. It's gonna collapse, it's gonna collapse, it's gonna collapse, it's gonna collapse. And here we are 60 years later, and it hasn't collapsed yet. Now, none of those people were wrong. Everything they said happened, but it's just happened in these stages, and then it's plateaued, and everyone got used to that new normal. And then the next part happened, and it went down a little bit more, and then it plateaued, and everyone got used to that new normal. So they've stair-stepped us down all this way. And it feels like, oh, it never happened. Well, it happened. Everything everyone's ever said has predicted has happened, or is in the process of happening. But it's just, it's been this managed collapse. It's been this roll downhill. So what we know is that things ain't getting better. We know that. They have printed so much money, and there is so little of real value backing that money up. We don't manufacture that much. We're not producing the oil we need to produce. You can't dig mines anymore because the environmentalists freak out. Americans aren't, our work ethic used to be this incredible thing, where Americans just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. And, we don't even take all of our vacation time every year. Well, that's gone. But we're not those people anymore. Some of you are. So, there's not this incredible, what do they call it? Not efficiency, but maybe it is efficiency. I can't remember. It's something in the economy that, where you can make more with less. We used to have that on tap no matter what. We always had that in the American economy. You knew that we were going to make more with less. I can't remember what that's called. Someone will probably know that. I've missed a bunch of comments, man. I'm sorry. If you want me to see something, you might have to put it in a couple times. What is it? Is it efficiency? It doesn't matter. All that's gone. There's nothing and I shouldn't say there's nothing. There's very little backing up all of this money that's sloshing all around, all over the world. All these dollars are all over the place. And the only thing backing them up is OPEC oil. The only thing keeping the American dollar strong is the fact that OPEC will not sell its oil in anything other than dollars. You have to go get $1 to go buy oil. And so everyone has to buy our money. They have to give us things to get our money because they need our money to go buy oil. That's the petrodollar. That has been the only thing propping us up. Henry Kissinger did it in the late 70s or whatever it was. Took us off the gold standard. Pegged us to oil. It actually was a brilliant move. I mean, it was utterly brilliant. And that's why we're still the reserve currency status. If you don't know what that means, it means people put their money in dollars because everyone else's money is volatile and will go up and down, and the dollar always maintains a steady value or a high value compared to all other currencies. The pound, the British pound, and then the euro are the other two that are considered reserve currencies, although the euro isn't really as much anymore. But anyway, this stuff isn't going to last. Russia has already, as much as they may or may not be getting their asses kicked in Ukraine, Keith has a different view on that. They've gotten people to buy their oil in things other than in rubles. They've made people get Russian rubles to buy Russian oil. That doesn't necessarily make their money a reserve currency, but it does put a ceiling underneath, a floor, I'm sorry. It puts a floor underneath their currency. It's not going to fall any farther than the certain level because there's going to be a certain amount of people who need it to buy their oil from Russia. This is a major, major, major crack. This is a major crack in America's global domination. This is the first time I could say that there's been a real crack in America's global domination. When people can start buying and selling oil in things other than dollars, it has been a severe blow. Maybe not blow. It is a severe threat to America's global dominance. And you have to understand that there are huge amounts of people throughout the world who their whole world is tied up in America's global dominance because they control it. And it's not just Americans, it's globalists, it's the UN, it's the Euro. It's all these foreign entities that know how to manipulate America to do what they want. And all of these places are all tied up in America's global dominance. And if that starts cracking, if that starts crumbling, These people are going to lose their damn minds. I can't remember who's the head of the UN right now. It used to be Boutros Ghali years ago. And of course, I only remember that because his name was so funny, Boutros Ghali. But whoever, all these guys, the World Health Organization, IMF, the International Monetary Foundation, the World Criminal Court, the all these, their entire existence is predicated on the fact of American global dominance. And as that starts fading, these people are going to lose their minds. And Russia forcing people to buy their Russian oil in Russian rubles is this is the first time in my life that I've ever sat back and said, "Oh." Now the other side of this is that, former Vice President Joe Biden, the world's most obvious dead man, pissed off the Saudis. He's so. I lost the chat. Sorry. He's so adamant about getting in bed, of being the anti-Trump. He wants to do everything the opposite of what Trump did. So Trump got out of the Iran nuclear deal. Well, Biden's got to get back in because Trump got out. The problem with that is that the Saudis hate the Iranians. The Iranians and the Saudis hate each other. They've been at war for like 1,500 years. And they despise each other. And I'm not saying the Saudis are the good guys in this fight, by the way. I'm just saying the Saudis are the ones who are backing the petrodollar, because the Saudi Arabians control OPEC, and OPEC, OPEC does what Saudi says. If the Saudi Arabians ever start selling oil in a currency other than American dollars, the whole world system collapses. The whole world system collapses like a flan in a cupboard. Massive cool points if you can tell me what that reference is. Flan in a cupboard. America falls. America falls because we can no longer carry these gigantic deficits. Remember, we print money at an epic rate. I mean, just an epic rate. And people always buy it. They always want it. They always accept our money because they can turn around and buy oil. But if they no longer need American dollars to buy oil, now there's no demand for American dollars. And our currency collapses. Social Security goes away. Medicaid goes away. Our military spending goes away. Disability benefits go away. Section 8 housing goes away. Food stamps go away. All of this shit goes away. Now, it might still be there in name. It might still be putting out that same sum of money, but that sum of money will be worth so much less that it will essentially, for practical purposes, not be functional, effectively functional. Those things won't do what they were meant to do. The entire neoliberal postmodern order collapses. There's no social safety net. There's none of this stuff. It's, dog eat dog. We have to live like everyone else in the rest of the world. Europe has to live like everyone else in the rest of the world because, Europe finances their incredible social safety programs because of the American military. Europe doesn't have to defend itself. It doesn't have to spend much money at all on national defense. So they can take all that money and they spend it on these socialized systems of, welfare and the social safety net and all that. That goes away. The world gets plunged into utter chaos. No one knows what comes out on the other side of the collapse of the petrodollar. No one knows what that world looks like. I am very, very sure that it does not look anything like what it looks right now. I mean, just everything changes. Vast swaths of what our government does it can no longer do, can't afford. I think it would be the best possible thing for us, by the way. It completely neuters the federal government. The federal government controls the nation with all this money. You know, it says, all right, states, you pass this law and we'll give you all these billions of dollars. And the states go, okay, we'll pass. That's why we have seatbelt laws. That's why all the states have, the same drinking age laws. All these things, because the federal government says, look, you pass this law and we'll give you all this money. And the states are like, well, we can't leave this money on the table. And so they pass the laws. Once the feds can't, it's just everything changes. And I started all of that because Hillbilly asked what I thought the prospects were for the immediate future. Do I think in the immediate future the petrodollar dies? I don't. Because so many global institutions are completely tied to America's global dominance. But we are closer than we've ever been to that happening. I do, the inflation's not going away. Now, and here's something y'all need to understand. When they talk about inflation ending, that doesn't mean the prices go back to where they were. That's called deflation. And that scares our financial overlords more than inflation does. When they talk about the end of inflation, what they mean is that prices stop increasing more, at least more than 2% a year. Remember, they want all prices to go up 2% a year. That's their stated goal. Don't even try to hide it. They want everything to increase by 2% a year. So right now, inflation, the prices of everything is going up like 8.5% or more. When the inflation stops, it doesn't mean we go back to the prices that were there before the inflation happened. It means we stop at that level, and then we just increase much more slowly going forward. The price point we're at now on everything is the new price point. Prices will not go down. Commodities fluctuate. Gas, food, that sort of stuff. But they're going to stay in this high price range. We're not going to get relief from these high prices. Deflation is this whole other thing. And deflation is when money buys more. Inflation is when your money is worth less, it buys less. With deflation, your money actually ends up buying more. And you'd think, well, that's a good thing, right? Why? That's a good thing. But it scares the bejesus out of our financial overlords because they've got this debt-fueled system. And if money buys more, then it's harder to get money. And so they've got all this debt, and it gets harder to earn the money they need to pay off the debt. See, they've got this scam, and it's brilliant, where they borrow all this money right now, and then they use it to buy things right now, valuable things right now, and then they cause inflation, and the money's worth less, and so it's easier for them to earn the money to pay off the debts they took when they still have those assets they bought when money was worth more. So they've traded, basically worthless money, not worthless, but much less valuable money they're going to earn later for valuable commodities now. And it's brilliant, and it works, and it makes them very, very, very wealthy. But that means they cannot have deflation. No. Because then the whole debt-fueled system, boomerangs on them and they die. Okay, watch The Rebel Capitalist on YouTube. Okay, Michael L., I hadn't heard of him before. I will look him up. Keith has to bail. I have to shift my sleep schedule so I can get up at 2 a.m. Tuesday to work the polls in the Texas runoff. Cool, Keith. Good luck with that. and then we will willingly sell ourselves into slavery. Yes, just like the Egyptians sold themselves into slavery to Joseph and the Pharaoh. Willingly. When China invades Taiwan, the sanctions will cause a collapse. I think China is going to be very, very careful about invading Taiwan. The thing to remember is that China uses second tier low grade Russian weapons. Russia sells its crappy out of date weapons to China. And China is looking at the Ukraine, which was a much easier invasion than Taiwan would be. And they're seeing how expensive this invasion has been for Russia and how little it's accomplished. They didn't take Kiev. They did just then now finally take Mariupol, but they've just lost hundreds of tanks and dozens of helicopters and I think dozens of warplanes, and they've expended all this ammunition and manpower, and they haven't gotten much more than they started off with. China's looking at that and saying the invasion of Taiwan would be much harder, and they don't have an answer for the Stinger and the Javelin. There's just no answer to that. So now they've got to try to get a gigantic infantry force across the ocean. It's not a big ocean. It's a small little channel, I guess, or whatever, but it's still an amphibious assault. And they have to do it with weapons and equipment that now have been proven, shown, conclusively demonstrated to be vastly inferior. Or maybe not vastly vastly inferior. They're vastly out of date. Vastly out of date. I think the Ukraine situation has just forced China to move back the invasion of Taiwan by maybe 20 years. All right, the Braves win. Woohoo! I think I was talking too loud when I woke up the baby. I know that's not a popular opinion. Now, I do think that does make an attack on America more likely, an attack by Russia and China, because when it's been shown conclusively, Carmen, Manuel Goldstein, not Cartman, Carmen. When it's been shown conclusively how inferior their weapon systems are, now suddenly their ambitions have been put back decades. And if they want to achieve their goals, now they have only one option. They have to take out America. If China wants Taiwan now, China knows that it probably can't successfully invade Taiwan. Its Russian weapon systems are garbage. They're not going to work. They didn't work in Ukraine, and the Chinese don't even have as good a stuff as the Russians do, obviously. So now what do? Well, they got one option. They got to take out America. Can they do that? I am skeptical. However, everyone was skeptical that Japan could attack Pearl Harbor. And they did it. And you see, if they're gonna do it, if you're gonna shoot a bear, you better kill it, right? Z is on meth. If you're gonna shoot a bear, you better kill it. So if Russia and China are gonna take their shot, they're gonna take their biggest shot. So I do think we're closer to the end of the petrodollar than we've ever been. We are closer to a devastating attack on our homeland than we've ever been. Because we're so strong. It's like they don't have any other choice at this point. They either have to take us out, or they just got to shut the hell up and live with us. Yeah, Emmanuel Goldstein, garden won't help if everyone nukes each other. What else do I think is going to happen? I do think, I think the most likely path going forward is obviously increasing domestic turmoil. We can't. I say abortion is the murder of a child. My Second Amendment rights are foundational to my life and my freedoms. You know, my religion is non-negotiable, and you can't have my children. You can't influence my children. And you can't put me in the same society with, you know, a New York liberal who thinks, you know, that banning abortion is the murder of women, that my Second Amendment rights is the murder of children, you know, and that my children should be raised by the state. There's no compromise there. You know, we are what's the best way to, you know, we are morally opposed to each other completely. His lifestyle is moral anathema to me. My lifestyle is moral anathema to him. He is an immoral monster to me. I'm an immoral monster to him. One of us has to go. We can't live together anymore. Been gardening this year. Zucchinis are huge, the size of my forearms, and lettuce the size of my head. Whew. So to me, that's the big story going forward. You know, how do we resolve this irreconcilable impasse we've come to? My damn, stop it! Wes S is live, and y'all are gonna go run over there now. The name of his live stream is "Stop Kissing Monkeys." Nice. So to me, that's the dominant storyline going forward. Do we find a way to accommodate each other? Do we return to a radical federalism where, you know, each state has almost complete autonomy outside of, you know, national defense and interstate commerce? Because that was the system our forefathers set up. You know, people didn't think of themselves as United States citizens. They thought of themselves as a state citizen. You know, I was a Georgian. You know, and then the states cooperated on national defense and major economic policy and foreign policy, obviously. You know, and that was it. That was it. It used to be, even up to the time of the Civil War, you could go up to the White House and walk right in and go to the president's office and say, hey, I want to talk to the president. There's stories of people doing this and going in and talking to Abraham Lincoln because, you know, it just wasn't that big a deal. The president didn't have a huge impact on everyone's day-to-day lives, you know. People were much more interested in the state and local politics because our Constitution is specifically written that all of this stuff is supposed to be handled at the state and local level. The federal government's only allowed to do a very limited number of things according to the Constitution. Very limited number of things. No law enforcement. Law enforcement is supposed to be all at the local level. Very little the feds are supposed to. So do we return to that radical federalism, which I don't think we can. We can't. The federal government can't give up its power. Mike L., I think I saw you in the comments. I can't obviously do that right now, but I will Google it. Or do we have a civil war, essentially? You know, maybe it's not a hot civil war. Maybe there aren't armies in the field fighting each other. But do these riots and counter riots basically turn into low-scale urban combat, like you would see in, say, Syria? Although that's not really low scale urban combat. But you know, this sort of, hey, Dean, how you doing, brother? Dean's with us. It's good to hear from you. You know, do these riots turn into, you know, mutual riots happening at the same time where people are I almost don't want to even say the words. Uh, that to me is the story going forward. And also Northern Ireland. Good point. Yeah, that's exactly right, Lance Corporal Veteran. Thank you. That's the right analogy. Northern Ireland. Other than that, of course, then the next question. There's two other things I'm interested in. Well, there's lots of things I'm interested in. But if you're going to say for the near term, what do I think the big story? And we're still talking about Hillbilly's question all the way back. It's going to be food shortages and grand solar minimum. I'm still convinced the grand solar minimum. I shouldn't say convinced. I am very persuaded by the grand solar minimum. So those would be the three stories I would live. Let's say five. Petrodollar, attack on the homeland, devastating, overwhelming attack on the homeland. Social unrest, that doesn't even cover it. Let's just say civil war / federalism, grand solar minimum, food shortages. Okay, Emmanuel Goldstein does not like the grand solar minimum. Okay. Why? Oh well, Emmanuel, listen. What do I think about? Why do I like? First off, the grand solar minimum is convincing to me because the environmentalists have been wrong about everything. I mean, they have been wrong about everything. Every 12 years, they tell us that we've only got 12 years left. And then 12 years pass and they say, well, we've only got 12 years left. I'm not sure why they like the number 12 so much. But, they keep telling us, oh, the sea levels are going to rise. There'll be no snow. First the babies, the whales were all going to die. Or no, I think first all the birds were going to die. Then all the whales were going to die. Then all the baby seals were going to die. Then all the polar bears were going to die. Then all the bees were going to die. Tongo, or whatever the hell those countries were down there in the South Pacific were going to disappear underneath the waves. That the sea level was going to come up. So anyway, these people have been so completely and blindingly wrong about everything they've ever said that they make Fauci feel good about himself. And so the grand solar minimum is just the exact opposite of what they've been saying all these years. So that part alone right there just appeals to me, It's like these idiots keep saying it's warming, based on their track record. You're pretty sure it's about to be an ice age, But then the other thing is, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. Who am I to say what makes sense about science? But the foundation of this whole idea is that the temperatures on Earth are driven by the sun. Well, that's almost axiomatic, I mean, duh. I mean, even the damn global warming people say that temperatures are affected by the sun. They just say that it's regulated by these gases in our atmosphere, but the heat originates at the sun. All right. So, the grand solar minimum people, they've got all this stuff about how the sun works and why it works this way and why it will, affect the temperatures on Earth and how it's done it in the past. Whereas the global warming people have this weirdness about Here's an interesting little tidbit I didn't know. No one's sure how big our atmosphere is. No one knows what the volume of air in our atmosphere is. So it becomes impossible to talk about how greenhouse gases affect our atmosphere because we don't know how big it is. We don't know what the proportion of these greenhouse gases to our atmosphere is because we're not even sure how much atmosphere we have. And I don't know if it's because the math is such a big deal or they don't really know. I don't know. The other thing is that they also claim that in the past it's been as much as 9 degrees warmer on Earth, and just naturally. That right now we're still in this, well within this range of normal, historically. Anyway, so that's why I like the grand solar minimum. Uh, there's no shortage. It's all been being sent to the border. Dean, you just so before you got here, I was talking about an interesting meme I just seen, uh, and then I went off on a tangent. I didn't say what the meme was, and the meme was a picture of the baby formula aisle in America and a picture of the baby formula aisle in Mexico, and the baby formula aisle in Mexico was full, completely stocked, and obviously we know the baby formula aisle in America was bare. Uh, this I can't that you know me well, Dean, we've been friends for a while. You know the list of things I can't wrap my mind around is long, but I don't understand how they let this happen because it undermines their credibility so much. You know, we can't feed your baby. Your baby's going to starve. Don't don't do anything. You know, they're being don't make formula at home. You know, don't order formula online. What are you supposed to do? Well, you go to the emergency room. Oh, why? They got this this almost fatally undermines the credibility of the federal government with the one group of, you know, the one demographic that they rely on the most, women, uh, white women at that, that I can't, I just can't believe they let this happen. I don't understand how, you know, there's not someone somewhere in this vast corrupt system who's tasked with making sure that the main concern of your main constituency is dealt with. You know, poison the babies. They don't care. They kill babies by the millions. They don't care if a few babies get poisoned by baby formula. They just assume they got killed in the womb anyway. The fact that they let this be seen, this baby formula shortage be seen, to me, you know, they always, you know, people will say sometimes that, you know, the left isn't smart enough to run a conspiracy. This baby formula shortage to me is just like these guys are idiots. What? You know, they need white women, young white women, you know, the Karens of the world, suburban white women, to buy this nonsense about, you know, an all-powerful, overarching federal government's going to handle all of your problems and solve all your crises, and then they let the worst crisis possible come to fruition. And who are the people who rely on baby formula the most? These are these college-educated weirdos who listen to everything the doctors tell them and listen to all the experts, you know, and whatever their these are the people who rely on formula the most, and poor people, very poor people, like welfare level people. So these college educated middle class and then like welfare level poor people. These are the people who rely on the formula the most. These are the people the liberals require, you know, rely on the most. Those are their most reliable constituencies, and they just completely failed them in the most obvious and spectacular way possible, without apologizing, without a plan to fix it. They're just like, yeah, go to the emergency room. But we'll have them back on shelves in a couple months. That that makes Let Them Eat Cake. Y'all remember Let Them Eat Cake? You know, allegedly, you know, right in the run up to the French Revolution, someone told the French Queen Marie Antoinette that the people didn't have any bread. They said the people don't have any bread, and allegedly Marie Antoinette looked at them quizzically and said, "Well, then let them eat cake." And it was supposed to be this, you know, this sign of how, you know, detached from reality the royal family. There is, let them eat cake is at least an alternative. You know, cake is an alternative to bread. When you go to the government and you say, my baby is starving, and they say, we'll have a solution in 2 months, that makes Let Them Eat Cake look like a, you know, a well thought out plan. saying, well, we'll get you some formula in 2 months is saying, well, your baby's going to die. Wait 2 months and have another one. It is astounding to me that this was allowed to happen. See, the government pays farmers not to grow food, and people think there is just going to be some random food shortage. Count on family yourself and very limited amount of friends. To hell with the government. Yes. I'd eat the cake first. Oh, Isaac tells me that the stream is buffering badly. Sorry about that. If it gets, Isaac, if it gets really bad, let me know. Maybe we'll call it. I don't know. Emmanuel Goldstein says the stream is fine over there. So it could just be out there in the wilds of Massachusetts that the internet's doing. Autonomous zones are back. Look up police raid Atlanta forest occupation. Huh. Atlanta forest occupation. Let's look that up real quick. Because there's homeless camps all over the city. All right. I looked up Atlanta forest occupation. I didn't look up raid. Oh, but it's the first thing to come up. Okay, Unicorn Riot. This is unicornriot.ninja. On Tuesday, May 17th, law enforcement from several jurisdictions, including SWAT teams armed with rifles, conducted a raid on the burgeoning autonomous zone within the Atlanta forest, arresting 8 people and destroying 6 tree houses and other protest infrastructure. After the raid, officers from the Atlanta Police Department's Zone 3 Field Investigations Team, FIT, discussed using deadly force against protesters if they used Molotov cocktails to defend themselves from a raid, according to Scanner Audio. This is a quote from a police officer. I told you, deadly force encounter, said one officer. That's why I brought it up. As long as we're all on the same page, Molotov cocktails, a deadly force encounter. A deadly force encounter is a situation in which officers are legally allowed to shoot to kill. They started staging at around 9 a.m. and started coming in at around 10 a.m. and we started mobilizing and calling for support, said one protester who was in the forest during the raid and asked not to be named due to potential retaliation. It was really intense. There was a helicopter circling for a long time trying to track our movement across open areas because they can't see us under the trees. We did what we could to make it as hard as possible for them to destroy these woods. And then these are pictures of the woods being destroyed by the protesters. According to the police, those committed to defending the forest put up a fight, pelting the officers with rocks and even Molotov cocktails. Ooh, see, when people start throwing Molotov cocktails, that's, I don't want to say it's revolution, but what's the difference? In the wake of the raid, a truck barricade constructed months ago to protect those occupying the forest from police incursions showed signs of having been set on fire. It's not clear who set the fire, but flaming barricades are a common tactic used by protesters around the world to push back against police. Also a great way to defend a forest. If you want to defend a forest, start a truck fire in the middle of it. Those arrested were given charges ranging from criminal trespass to obstruction of law enforcement officers. Agents from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the FBI are participating in an investigation of the nationwide protest movement that resulted in attacks on corporate infrastructure in several states, as well as major mobilizations in and around Atlanta. How have we not heard of this? People are inside Atlanta throwing Molotov cocktails at the police. How is this not nightly news? Because they're leftists. That's why. I answered my own question. If you or I did it, if you or I threw Molotov cocktails at a hail bay in our backyard, it would be national news. They randomly wielded a sledgehammer to destroy a new generator. This is a protester talking about the cops. Protesters allege that police also destroyed their belongings during the raid. They randomly wielded a sledgehammer to destroy a new generator. I hate that. I could use a generator. They cut off people's hammocks. They tore up people's sleeping bags. Just behaving like a gang. If you're using a sleeping bag in the weather we've been having, you need to go see a doctor now. Just brutal, senseless, vengeful, cruel actions against the stuff that helps us stay here. Well, jackass, they don't want you staying there. That was the point. Local organizations involved in the effort to defend the Atlanta forest. I've never even heard of the Atlanta forest. That's just silly. If you've ever been to Atlanta, it's one big forest. There's just trees everywhere. That's what one of the things people complain about when they go down. You know, people come from up north and they go to Atlanta, and they're like, "Why are there's all these trees? It's just one gigantic forest." Local organizations involved in the effort to defend the Atlanta forest held a press conference Tuesday in response to the raid on the encampment, as well as the attack by police on a peaceful protest Saturday. I wonder if this is the peaceful protest where they were throwing Molotov cocktails, in which 17 people were arrested, including one Unicorn Riot contributor. This is an attempt to demoralize a vibrant and diverse movement led by local, yada, yada, yada. We are going to rebuild. We are going to rebuild. We just need a lot of support. So give us money so we don't have to get jobs. We need as many people as possible to come. We need people to donate so we can rebuild. We need people to donate so we can free our locked up comrades. Atlanta will remain a forest. You couldn't stop Atlanta from being a forest. As much as I hate that place. Trees everywhere. Okay. The ongoing... okay. No, you know what? I did hear something about this. The ongoing protest movement seeks to oppose the construction of a police training facility and the destruction of the forest upon which the project depends. Dubbed Cop City by its critics, the 85-acre police training facility carries a price tag of $90 million for its initial phase. In September 2021, Atlanta City Council approved a proposal to construct a facility within a huge swath of forested land in unincorporated DeKalb County, southeast of Atlanta. Okay, this is ridiculous. It's unincorporated, so it's out in the country, in an area with huge amounts of forest and land. In recent weeks, autonomous attacks in solidarity with efforts to defend the Atlanta forest have occurred throughout the country, including according to a website that tracks such actions. This is silly. 85 acres in central South Georgia is nothing. It's nothing. Okay. Well, I don't remember who brought that up. Thank you, whoever told us to look that up. Yeah, they're throwing Molotov cocktails. I've never heard of the Atlanta forest. This is something they just made up. This is nothing. My chat must be lagging. Mine might be lagging too, Dean. All right, what did we miss in the chat? This new laptop is better than the old one, but not much. Dean has given us more information about the Randy Weaver situation. He says he didn't cut the shotgun short. When he sold the shotgun to the undercover agent, the undercover agent wanted it shorter. Weaver told him to get a hacksaw. Okay. So look at that. That's Oh, Wes S is here. Wes S, how did kissing the monkeys go, brother? I saw your live stream that y'all were kissing monkeys. I don't really understand. I just had a very funny joke come to mind, but I don't know if we're close enough friends for me to use it or not. The only person I know who kisses a monkey is Mrs. Wes S. Are we still friends, Wes? Have you heard about the new 277 Sig Fury being adopted by the Army? Possibly. I have thoughts on this, Isaac. I have so many thoughts on this 277 Fury, or the 6.8, whatever the hell they're calling it. Oh, they decided that kissing monkeys is not okay. That's good. I agree. That's probably a bad idea. Okay, so if you haven't heard about this Spear project, the Army has announced that it's adopting a new rifle and a new round. Now, if you know your military history at all, you know that the Army has been announcing that it's adopting a new rifle and a new round since 1775. Like since before the founding of the Republic, the Army has been in a perpetual stage of adopting a new rifle and a new round. I'm being a little facetious, but not much. So they have settled on this 6.8 by 51 millimeter. Now, all of you gun guys are going, 6.8 by 51? Why, by God, that's almost the exact same size as 7.62 by 51. Which, if you know your stuff, comms testing. Any station on this net, radio check, over. Delta Golf, this is Tango Romeo. What's M? What's M in the phonetic alphabet? How am I forgetting this? Oh my gosh. I don't remember M in the phonetic alphabet. November. N is November. P is Papa. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Echo, Delta, Foxtrot, Golf. The problem, Mike, thank you. Thank you, Tim. Mr. Dunnigan's with us. Hey, Mr. Dunnigan, it's good to see you, sir. Mike. This is Tango Romeo Mike. Radio check, over. So they, the 308 Winchester is essentially the same thing as 7.62 by 51 millimeter. This was the military round for a brief period from like 1955 to like 1964 or something, or 69, I can't remember. First part of Vietnam. And it had a lot of deficiencies as a military round, and it got replaced by the 5.56. Our beloved M16 round. So now the Army, and a long time later, by the way, the 5.56 lasted a very long time. So now they've announced that they're going to adopt this 6.8 by 51, which is essentially very, very similar in a lot of ways to 308 or 7.62 by 51. I have been skeptical the whole time. Now, I've also been wrong the whole time because the project keeps moving forward. I still remain skeptical. You got to remember, one of the powers that be's cherished pet projects is to get women into combat and to have women in as many combat roles as possible. And women are going to struggle to fire this round in this rifle. It is significantly more powerful than 5.56. The weapon system is significantly heavier. It's a piston-driven system, so it has a lot more felt recoil. And this is a hot cartridge. My understanding is a 140 grain bullet. So to put that in perspective, the 5.56 is a 62 grain bullet normally. There's a range that it falls into, but usually 62 grain is what there's the most of. 357 Magnum is a 125 grain bullet usually. Again, there's a range. 9 millimeter is a 115 grain bullet. .30-06, the main .30-06 loading, I think, is 158 grains. So and this is the weight. You know, these bullets are they're weighed in grains instead of like pounds or ounces because they weigh so much less than an ounce. So a 140 grain bullet is a heavy bullet, moving at 3,000 feet per second, which is really fast. The 5.56 goes about 3,000 feet per second in the 62 grain version. The 55 grain, I think, goes 3,200 feet per second. So you've got a heavy bullet moving very, very, very fast. Hey, Risky Krisky, how you doing? Very, very fast. At a very high chamber pressure to 80,000 psi, which is a very high chamber pressure. I've got to figure out how to keep this from turning off. So this is going to have a lot of felt recoil in a heavy platform, and women are going to struggle with it. And a lot of soldiers and Marines and, well, not Marines. A lot of people maybe aren't going to struggle with it, but the speculation is that marksmanship scores are going to go way down. Although it does have a crazy high-speed, high-tech, super cool sight that's supposed to go with it. So I am skeptical that this is going to face complete adoption. It's also very, very expensive. So the optic, I think, is $8,000, and the rifle, I think, is like $7,000. So like the package is like $15,000 per weapon. And there's, you know, was there 2 million people in our military, I think, combined, every you know, all branches, reserves, National Guard. I think combined it comes up to about 2 million people. So when you're talking about buying rifles for 2 million people at $15,000 a pop, I'm not even going to try to do that math in my head. Here, I'll try to do that math in my head. So 15 times 2 obviously is 30. And then so a million plus, so is that $30 billion? We're talking about $30 billion just to buy the rifles and optics. That's not stockpile the ammunition, because now you need billions of rounds of ammunition. Because not only do you need the ammo you're using in training, but you need the stockpiles of ammunition to fight wars on 2 fronts. So you need billions of rounds of ammunition. You've got to completely change the manual of arms, the training. This is a very, very big deal. And I am skeptical that the Army gets it through Congress. Now, it's a very interesting round. It's a very interesting round. I think the rifle is probably a bad idea. It's a piston system. It's a very heavy rifle. If you want this new round, it would fit inside an AR-10 platform, and you would have all of the advantages of the proven system. 5.56 surplus would be cheap. So I don't know why, if what you want is this round, why you wouldn't just put it in the AR-10. You've already got AR-10s in service as the SR-25. There's a sniper version of the AR-10. I think it's Knight's Armaments. So I think the rifle is stupid. The rifle is a step backwards as far as I'm concerned. The AR-10 and the AR-15, which are, you know, the same rifle, just different sizes, it's just the pinnacle of the rifle development. An in-range TV has already done a mud test on the rifle, and it failed. So, anyway, but the round is interesting, and you know, if you think you need a full-sized, sorry, I'm being silly. Look how white my arms are. If you think you need a full-size round, I'm okay with that. I think only men should be in combat roles anyway. Uh, but I think the rifle itself is stupid. The other thing I think is, 80,000 psi is a really, really high chamber pressure, and people are saying that that it's going to wear barrels out really fast. That you're going to start, running through barrels in a couple thousand rounds. And obviously, when you wear out the barrel on a $7,000 rifle, that's a problem. So we'll see. But yes, Isaac, the AK failed the mud test spectacularly. I was so happy. Lance Corporal Veteran has a good point. He doesn't think the 5.56 ammo would be cheap. Instead, most would be sold overseas. Anyway, so interesting round. I applaud the Army for thinking outside the box. But honestly, the solution to this problem, and no one's going to like this, is put 20-inch barrels back on your AR-15s. I know everyone does all these tests. It doesn't make that big a difference. Bullshit, it makes a difference. Put a 20-inch barrel on that. Redesign the ammunition to make it a little more effective. This is a marginal problem, and you can solve it around the margins. If you're going to make a $30 billion change to your rifle, you need to not just change one set of problems for another set of problems. That's what I think this is going to be. There's going to be, every inch matters. Thank you, JD. So the AR-15, the M4, as it's currently configured, has a set of problems. The Army is going to take that set of problems and trade it for the a whole new set of problems with this new SIG rifle and round. And I don't think the problems you're getting are going to be less problematic than the problems you're giving up. This is a lateral move. They need to be investing this $30 billion in new technology, because there's not going to be a significant advantage to be had over the AR-15 and 5.56. The other thing Ukraine has proven to us is that we're worried too much about body armor. The Russians don't have body armor. All that highly vaunted body armor that everyone thought the Russians, it's fake. It's not like it's bad, it's like it's fake. It's not there. They're wearing padded vests with like nothing but cotton in them. Russian body armor is not a thing at the field level. So there's not necessarily a huge need. Yeah, they need to invest $30 billion in lining the Mexican border. I don't think there's a huge need for this right now, or the need is not as pressing as they think it is. There were some problems in Afghanistan. I think those problems are addressed by, again, 20-inch barrels on your AR-15s and put a DMR at the squad level. Each squad should have a few DMRs, designated marksman rifles. AR-10s, shooting 308. Make them shoot this 277 Fury if you're that. That's an easy swap. That's a barrel swap. But a few AR-10s at the squad level, and 20-inch barrels on your AR-15 or your M16s, M4s, and this problem solves itself. The problem was that past 300 yards, they were having a hard time dropping jihadis. Part of that, I think, is marksmanship training. Part of it, this is also going to be unpopular, part of it's the ACOG. The ACOG is not a precision, and I've never used the ACOG, so I'm not speaking from experience. This is just things I've read and assumed and presumed. So it's worth what you pay for it. It's not a precision sight, It's this fixed magnification. It's a compromise at every level. It's a compromise to work up, okay up close. It's a compromise to work a little farther out. I think a lot of the problem is shot placement past 300 yards. You would have, oh, I hate her. You have a hard time convincing me that if you put a 5.56 round in someone's chest cavity at 400 yards, that it's not going to incapacitate them. I think the problem is much more likely to be bad hits or non-hits or hits that get or misses that get reported as hits. I'm a veteran. I love my fellow veterans and our current service members. There is a time-honored and well-established tradition of greatly overestimating our combat, our combat casualties inflicted on the enemy. So I don't know how much of this is anecdotal. I'm sure the Army hasn't just, 24-inch barrel 5.56 DMR. Dean just gives a smiley face. A 24-inch barrel is even better on a DMR. You're right, Isaac. Why was the optic depressed? It realized it was just a cog in the machine. Oh, that's probably what Dean's smiley face was for. Never mind. He was probably laughing at Isaac's joke. I thought he was agreeing with my observation. Lance Corporal Veteran has his own heavy 24-inch barrel AR-15 is his squad gun. You've all seen my my BOF rifle. It's a 24-inch barrel. The only reason it has a 24-inch barrel is because I couldn't find a 26-inch when I was ready to buy a barrel. But I went looking for a 26-inch. Remember, 20 inches is the compromise. You have velocity gains at least to 26 inches. You might have velocity gains past that. No one knows because no one's ever had a longer than 26-inch barrel to try. But the 20-inch barrel is the compromise for it being handy. Do you use drum mags? I have a 200-round drum mag that Wes S., if he's still here, got for me. Oh yeah, there he is. He just commented. I have a pointy stick and a scary cat. I am set. He gave me a 200-round drum. It's cool as can be. It looks awesome. The people I trust say that drums are not tactical, that they're just not as reliable as stick mags, and that if you want a drum or if you want increased capacity, you're better off with one of the more reputable 60-round mags. But the 60-round drum, those 60-round Magpul drums do have a good reputation. Oh, and the 40-round PMag. I forgot about that one. What's up? Hey, Aaron Goodman. My other question about that is, mag changes are so quick. It's just, I mean, I just wonder, especially when you add in the problems with carrying drum mags. Now, I guess what you would do is you would start off with the drum in the rifle, so that way you don't have to carry, because there's no good way to carry a drum mag on you. It's the same way with the saw. The spare ammunition for the saw comes in those green plastic boxes. It's just no good way to carry it. It's just awkward. But I guess if you just had one drum and you started off with one drum in the gun, and then you switched over to the stick mags, that might solve that problem. I don't know that drum mags offer that much of an advantage that they're worth, the minor frustrations they. Dean Goldberry is trying to start an argument. Dean, why would you say something like that? My ideal AR would be a 13.7 inch with plus 70 grain munitions. Why 13.7? Why a spoon, cousin? More cool points. I don't know if anyone got the flan in a cupboard comment. I didn't notice anyone saying it, but You know, I'll carve your heart out with a spoon. Why a spoon, cousin? Why 13.7 inches? Why not 14 or why not 13 and a half? I want to hear this reasoning, Dean. Tell me about this 13.7 inches. Uh, Drum mags are for ambushes and fixed static fighting positions, not for running and gunning. I mostly got the 60s as a finger to the government and because I could. Hoorah, Manuel Goldstein. That is always valid reasoning. Because you're an American. That's why. Why do you need 60 round drum mags? Because you're an American. And to give a middle finger to the federal government. All right, try firing that drum mag from prone. That's another question, Hunter Kirk, is, how far down does it stick? Can you get into a good low prone position? The 30 round magazine really is a sweet spot. It really compromises in a lot of areas well. I shot a pine tree down one time with a 30 round mag too. Pretty good sized pine tree. Okay, well, I say when I shot it down with a 30 round mag, that's not correct. I had a 30 round mag in the rifle I used to shoot down the pine tree. When I kit up, I carry 30 round mags and I load 140. He isn't sure he can handle the whole 14 inches. Wes says. He isn't sure he can handle the whole 14 inches. Shots fired. Holy hell. Dean, can you handle the full 14 inches? Okay. If you could snap your fingers right now and have any gun you want with 100,000 rounds to go with it, all laws aside, what would it be? Honest to God. So, does this question assume that I don't have any guns, that I'm starting from zero, or does it assume I have the guns I already have? Because that changes the answer. Any gun you want with 100,000 rounds. Do I already have my current guns, or am I starting from scratch? I need that piece of information with what you already have. I think I have to say an AR-10 with 1,000 rounds of 308. Was it 1,000 rounds or 100,000 rounds? I can't remember. I think if I was going to add, snap my fingers, get damn it, Wes. You get 7.62 AK-47. Screw you. That is just such a we're waiting to hear about that 14 inches, Dean. That it is just such an all-around good purpose round in an all-around useful platform. Good thing this is not Bible study. The other option would be, instead of the AR-10 and the 308, would be some kind of 9mm carbine, some sort of AR-9. I really like that helical locked one. I can't remember the name of it. Is it CMMG? I can't remember. So the saw, having spent some time with the saw, not a ton of time, but I've shot it, I've carried it, I've cleaned it, I've trained on it. I've spent a little bit of time with the saw. It's got a shorter barrel, and it bleeds off a ton of power. MP5 would be nice. The saw bleeds off a ton of power in that operating system, because it's got to work that feed tray, and so it really neuters the 5.56. And then it's already coming out of like, I think it's a 16-inch barrel. Might be that 14.5. I don't remember for sure. But it does throw down a nice volume of fire. It's not crazy reliable. It has a little bit of a bad reputation. It's very unreliable with stick mags, and it's okay. It's acceptably reliable with the belt fed, but the saw is an imperfect weapon system. Bear Claw says that the saw has a 24-inch barrel. I was not a machine gunner. I was a tow gunner. So I will bow to your superior wisdom. I remembered it having a shorter barrel, even than the M16A2s I carried back then. I could be wrong on that though, and I'm not going to stake a flag and defend that hill. Yeah, Lance Corporal Veteran says the same thing. It's great when it works. It sucks when it jams. Is the saw that much different to shoot or carry than an M60? I've never shot an M60. Those were gone by the time I got in. I know it's much lighter than an M60. Yeah, the old saws had long barrels. They got shorter in Iraq. You would think then that I handled the saw around 96, 97. Now, I put several thousand rounds through the 240, and the 240 was heavy as hell, but that was a machine gun. It didn't jam. Now, they were brand new. The Marine Corps had just gotten the Gulf. They'd been using a different version in the tanks for a while, but they'd just gotten the 240 Gulfs. They were brand new. Palmetto State Armory just had some FN paratrooper models for sale 2 months ago for $9,000. Seems like a good deal. And I did most of the firing in one day in the 240 Golf. We were on a range. It was live fire, movement to contact, and so we were just using it to lay down fire for this fire team to practice moving around. And we put, if I remember correctly, it was 6,000 rounds through it that day. A mixture of live ammunition and blanks. And it did fine. There were a few failures here and there with the blanks, but nothing bad. Now, we did have a spray bottle of CLP, and every time we changed a drum, we'd, spray it down. And obviously, we're changing the barrels out as they got hot. No. Yeah, the BAR would be a great choice too. Wes S. would choose a Remington 700 in 270, pre-1980. 270 is a great round. So yeah, but I still think AR-10 308 or, I forgot about my lever action 357. Ooh, I'd have to think about that too. Because then I've got 100,000 rounds of 357. And that's nothing to be sneezed at. Here in North Georgia, there's not much I can't do with 357. Our bears aren't that big. The biggest they get is about 450 pounds. And, the shots aren't that long. There's a few places out, like you can find some pastures here and there where maybe you could take a couple 100-yard shot, but not many. Most of your shots around here are going to be 150 yards or much less. And there's just very little I couldn't do with the 357 Magnum in a rifle, barrel. Stick Fighter says that he did like the M60, but did not use it a whole lot while deployed. 357 Magnum 180 grain Buffalo bore from an 18-inch barrel is badass. It is badass. It's probably pushing 2,000 feet per second. 180 grains at 2,000 feet per second. Now it's not a Spitzer or boat tail or it's a ballistically inefficient round, but still within 100 yards, 150 yards, nothing to be laughed at. Mike L wants to buy 357 reloading components. If my 5.56 can't drop it, my 450 Bushmaster will rip a chunk from it. I've heard a lot of good things about that 450 Bushmaster. Oh, wow. Lance Corporal veterans remembered using the 240. They had 3 guns, one on a truck, another in the Humvee, and one in a fighting position, and our company had everyone shoot like 50 rounds per person and had to pour water to cool it. Why don't they just switch the barrels? Andrew Jackson says the 686 357 mag is the best gun for around him. Wes S says you can get round nose 357, and you can get whole rounds designed to be used in the lever rifles too, and it makes a difference. Oh, do I want to buy? Mike L says, do I want to buy 357 reloading components, about 6,000 rounds worth? I doubt I can afford it. I would like to if I can afford it. Shoot me a text, we'll talk. My guess though is that I can't afford it. Okay, Dean says China bought their one carrier from Russia 20 years ago. It spends half its time in dry dock. And it gets a little worse than that even, Dean. They actually bought it from Ukraine. It was a Soviet era, it probably was an error too, but it was a Soviet era aircraft carrier that was in the middle of construction when the Soviet Union fell. So it doesn't have a catapult, it doesn't have an arresting cable. It's got a ski jump. It's got one of those ski jump noses on it. So the Russians quit building it in 1985. The Ukrainians sold it to the Chinese because they didn't know what else the hell to do with it. The Chinese do not have aircraft that can take off from that aircraft carrier with weapons loaded, or even a full fuel load. So they have planes that can launch from the aircraft. They have airplanes that can launch from the aircraft carrier, but they can't have weapons on them. They can't have a full load of fuel, and they can't land back on the aircraft. They have to land at a airstrip on a regular full-size airstrip. So the Chinese do technically have an aircraft carrier by the strictest definition of the term aircraft carrier. They do have a boat that can carry aircraft, but it might as well be a container ship because it serves no purpose otherwise. And that information is only about 2 years old. I don't think anything's changed in the last 2 years. What do you like for a 12 gauge home defense loading now? I like the shorties, the little short rounds, the low powered rounds. They're about yay big. I'm not as worried about them blowing through walls because I've said this before. You've all heard me say this before. I'm sorry to bore you. Every wall in this house has a child behind it. And I'm not even kidding. I mean, it's not even exaggeration. My bedroom is the only one that doesn't have a child in it. Every other wall's got kids behind it. I'm sorry. You could steal everything in this house other than the children and the guns, and it wouldn't add up to $5,000. You know what? Probably wouldn't add up to $1,500. I mean, you'd have to take the appliances. So as long as you're not going after my children or my guns, I'm not risking putting holes in walls. Not because the walls are nice. They're not, except that one. I built that one from reclaimed pallets. This is a nice wall. But even if it wasn't, there's a child on the other side of that wall. I will not shoot something in this house that is going to damage the only valuable things in this house. There's nothing in here valuable other than those children. All right. You want to steal my broken down daddy chair? I don't know how these kids do it. Every time I get a recliner, they break it the same way. I've got 2 recliners in here. They're both broken the same way. I don't know how they did it. I've got a homemade table. You can't carry it. It's 4 foot by 8 foot. It's huge. I've got a $200 laptop. I've got a hand-me-down TV. And that's it. So I'm not blowing holes in my walls. I'm going to point a shotgun at you and say, look, asshole, take what you can get, but get out quick. I mean, I'm being a little facetious. Bear Claw says that Reed Hendricks did a great video where he shot up a house with different rounds. 5.56 is best compared to buckshot and handgun rounds. They have urban and mostly rural fields. There is no one gun to rule them all. So what common U.S. made rifle would you take to Ukraine? My vote is AR-10. I agree, Rat Route. Character Matters likes turkey magnums, number 5 shot, 3-inch high brass for home defense. Again, though, are you defending the home or destroying the home? I mean, you're... All right, Isaac says 5.56 Spear Gold Dot does not overpenetrate much at all. Much. So I don't have a lot of experience with hollow point 5.56. I have a lot of experience with Full Metal Jacket 5.56. And I have a whole video on this. You guys can go back and watch it if you want, where I show, the target I use to zero my rifles. And I don't remember all the exact dimensions, but it has 2 layers of OSB front and back. And I think it comes out to like almost 2 inches of OSB. And so I'm shooting that target to zero rifles. It's penetrating 2 inches of OSB. Then it's hitting pine trees behind that target. And these are pine trees that are like, 8 inches, 6 to 12 inches, let's say about 8. It's still going through those pine trees and going through the pine trees behind those. I could follow one line where it went through all that OSB, it went through a pine tree, it went through a third pine tree, a second pine tree, and then veered off to the left enough to skin a third pine tree. I don't have a wall in this house that is going to stop any 5.56. 5.56 will blow through every wall in this house and go out the other end. I can't see what you guys can see. There's the kitchen. All right, well, there's my bedroom door over there. And there's the other side of the room. I could stand in my bedroom door, and fire a 5.56. And I almost guarantee you it would go through every wall and out the other side of the house. That is not a home defense round. Now, I'm sure you said they got the gold dot versions and all this stuff. I'm sure there's a solution out there. But the other solution is to not go blasting up your house with a high-powered rifle. I have a 5.56 with a high-powered rifle. But I like a low brass 12 gauge. Mariah's comfortable shooting it. I'm comfortable shooting it. If I miss with it, there's a much lower ceiling on the horrible things that could happen. Sell the beds, aim high. Have everyone sleeping on the floor. I am not SEAL Team 6. I will never be SEAL Team 6. I don't have to try to wring every last tactical advantage out of every last piece of gear. There comes a point of diminishing returns. Well, there you go. I mean, there's a point of diminishing returns. There comes a point where you don't say, well, what if there's 6 of them and they're hopped up on PCP, and at some point you say, okay, what is the cost risk analysis? What does this cost me? What do I risk by doing this? If what you're trying to do is wring out every last tactical advantage and have it be as sure a thing as possible, and at some point you end up with a howitzer or a nuclear weapon or something, you have to say, okay, what's likely to happen? What is the downside if this happens or that happens? And for me, it's something stupid happens in the middle of the night. I take a shot in the dark, which is a bad idea, but something's already stupid's already happened in the middle of the night, and I miss. And what comes next? Because if I'm awake, you think about this scenario. The scenario is that I'm awake and I've grabbed a weapon to engage an intruder with. All right, already, all the worst stuff is averted. He can't turn his back on me. He's got to deal with me. So already, my main goals have been accomplished. He's no longer going towards my children's rooms. Now he's focused on me. So I've already won in this scenario. And I don't think at close ranges, especially ranges inside a house, that the shorty 12 gauge buckshots are going to bounce off this intruder, and he's going to laugh at me as he stabs me with his big screen buck 115. Okay, Wes says, but I live in an old wood frame house, 2 layers of 1/2-inch sheetrock on either side of 1x12 lumber. I'm sorry, but an inch of sheetrock doesn't even slow down a rifle round, a 5.56. Old wood frame house, 2 layers of 1/2-inch sheetrock on either side. Okay, so he's got 2 layers of 2 inches of sheetrock, and then the sheetrock's over 1x12s on either side. So there's 2 layers of pine and 2 layers of sheetrock. I think it still penetrates it. It still blows right through it. Oh, Aaron Goodman, thank you. A little bit of positive reinforcement here. He says those mini shells will do everything you need for home defense in your situation, and they aren't super expensive either, so good choice. 1-inch rock and 1.5 inches of wood. It's hard to rock anything with 1.5 inches of wood, Wes. Okay. 14-inch Rambo knife and a strong light blinding you and bad dog eating you. That's the other thing. As right now, I've got 2 of these Great Pyrenees, and I really don't have to worry about anything getting into the house, because they'll make enough noise and do enough damage outside the house that I'll be able to. I mean, obviously, I'm being a little facetious, but wow. Okay, Michael, I'll check my text. The phone, I'm using the phone right now to do the live stream, so I can't check the text messages right now. But I will when I get done here. I think we're winding down anyway. You men have been remarkable with us this evening. You've stuck with us a long time. This has been a great live stream. Some of the best chat we've ever had. Hunter Kirk knows what I'm talking about. Buckmaster 184. Let's see some chats we may have missed. Okay, for my bedside, I use an 11.5-inch AR with linear comp and Fort Scout 62 grain TUI ammo. I don't know what TUI ammo is. Oh, and then there was the epic comment. He isn't sure he can handle the whole 14 inches. Ba-dum-ba-dum. Oh, the Sig Raptor prototype. I think that's the shorty spear, right? Go ahead and say AK-47 and 7.62 by 39. I tell you what, Wes. An MP5 is nice. Oh, GAU 17 minigun. This is important information. There is range prone, and then there's... Now, where'd it go? And getting shot at prone. Become the dirt. Lever action 357 would be a temptation, says Wes. Stick fighter. Oh, yeah, we already did that one. Yeah, Aaron says he can't wait to see how the new 277 Fury stacks up to combat situations. That is going to be fairly effective on target, you know, if you get the hit. So you're a rent-all kind of guy. The joke there, JDO, is that I used to work for rent-to-own companies. I worked for technically 4 different ones. But in reality, I just worked for one. Had to quit because I lost my driver's license. Got hired back to a second one that was really just the first one, but they had such a bad reputation. They were starting a whole new chain, and they were going to abandon the old chain. But then Aaron's bought that chain to start a third chain called HomeSmart that was going to be a weekly model. But then HomeSmart didn't work, so they just changed the HomeSmart into an Aaron's. So I never actually really changed jobs and worked for 4 different companies. And if you want a soul-crushing job, you want to be an account manager for a rent-to-own company, it doesn't get much worse than that. Wes says he would not shoot a 12 gauge in his house, maybe the short shells. 22 long rifle and 9mm carbines are my favorite go-to for defense. I think they're both excellent choices. Stick fighter likes a 220 grain 300 blackout out of a 10-inch or less barrel. Aaron says that's why you don't use FMJ rounds. I did a test using 5.7 CMG 10.5 pistol with a 27 grain red box, went through wall, stopping into a jug of water. Claymore, Michael L. says. I've only seen the Claymore go off once, but that is one of the more impressive weapon systems. That thing was amazing. It was in training, obviously, as I never saw combat. But I was in the infantry, so I got to see and do a lot of fun stuff. And one of these things was this Claymore we got to clack off one day. And there was this big, it wasn't a telephone pole, but it was almost like a pier pillar. You know, it was like a giant telephone pole for like a pier. It was huge. I don't want to speculate how big it was, but it was probably twice the size of a telephone pole. And we stood it up on end in front of this claymore and clacked off the claymore. And what they told us at the time with the claymore is that if you put a claymore on one end of a football field, and I don't know why we used to call it clacking it off, but you clacked it off for some reason. I don't remember why. If you clacked off a claymore, everything from the claymore in a triangle out to the 50-yard line, extending out all the way to the 100-yard line, everything in that triangle would be dead. So we put this giant pier pillar, timber, whatever the hell it was, in front of it, and it cut it in half like a pencil. It had this, it looked just like a pencil. It was the craziest thing. Claymores ain't no joke. Everyone stopped talking about Rob. Damn it, what are we going to talk about then, Wes? Shit. A boring sandwich. My dog treat a bear. I hate to be the idiot that makes a bump in the night around here. I might not even have to fire a shot. Michael L. says, Ted Koppel, Lights Out, A Nation Unprepared, book. Cyber attack, grid down, U.S. has no long-term plan, it is coming. Hey, Rob, how you doing, sir? It's good to see you. Hey, Sharon. If you look at the video we put up Friday, and just fast forward to the end, it's a very long video, but go to the end, and we've got a little puppy update there. Not much to say. They're cute as can be. Their eyes are open. They're starting to wander around a little bit. Who's leaving? Whoever's leaving, I'm sorry, I didn't see you say goodnight. Good night. They're cute as can be. They're going to be ready in probably a month to 6 weeks. Michael L. says good night. Good night, Michael L. Okay. Wes S's new house has regular walls. This house is bullet resistant. What new house? Did you move? How many buckshot are in a claymore? I don't know, Andrew Jackson. Lance Corporal Veteran says it's called clacking off a claymore because the press grip trigger makes a clacking sound. I remember that now, you're right. It's got this kind of weird trigger. Landmines and claymore on duty. Okay, he heard us talking about him and he left. If I recall, it's like 96 12-gauge shotguns firing double-out buck at one time. Character Matter says that the claymore has 750 steel balls. JDO says that they did a claymore demo in his basic training and it was impressive. Wes S. upgraded his homestead location. Are you still in the great state of Tejas or have you moved, Wes S.? Clearly, I need to go watch your videos. I have been a bad subscriber. I apologize. You deserve better from me. I've been very busy, though. I mean, that's always my excuse. I'm also very lazy, so it's an easy excuse to make. Lazy people are always very busy because we never have enough time to get anything done because we don't do anything. Yes, we just moved farther into nowhere. That is awesome. Well done, sir. All right. Well, I think I have talked myself out. How far did we go? 134 minutes. I'll tell you what, we'll go to we'll go a little bit longer. One and a half pounds of C4 and about 700 balls. Yeah, they're damned impressive. We decided to double our drive time to town because fuel is so cheap. I saw a training Claymore demo dummy disassembled inside. Weren't metal balls. Instead of it was lots of bits of metal shards. I don't know, whatever the hell it is. It did a number on that piece of wood we put in front of it. They also did this, scared the living daylights out of everybody. That same day, we were doing all of our demolitions training, and so they split us up into 3 groups. I think it was a company. Pretty sure it was a company. So we were basically platoon size. So they split us into these 3 platoon size groups, and they gave each one of us a 1/4 pound block of C4 and a detonator and det cord. And they marched us out to these sand pits. There are these 3 sand pits, and everyone wrapped their det cord around their C4, and then you held it above your head. You yell crimping, and you crimp the detonator on the det cord, because if you blow up a 1/4 pound of C4 18 inches above your head, it won't kill you, allegedly. Then the instructors took all of our blocks of C4 and wired them all together, and then we're all standing there, and they told us to you twisted and pulled the detonator, and then you have X amount of time to get away before it blows up. So everyone's like, and you drop the detonator, and we all started walking away quickly because there was about 20 pounds of C4 in this pit. And we weren't in boot camp anymore. We were at our infantry training, so they weren't drill instructors. But the instructors start screaming and yelling, "What the hell are you doing? No one told you fall out. Get back here!" Da 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 da. And so they make us come back to stand next to the pit where the C4 is, going off. And he yells at us for, I felt like forever. I can't remember, but he just yelled and yelled and yelled and yelled. And all the time, this detonator, this det cord with this C4 is doing whatever the hell it does. And finally it says, "All right, we can go back." And everyone goes to take off. And he goes, "What? What the hell are you?" What? And he starts all over again. And he goes on for however long. And he's like, "Fall in." And he made everyone fall in. Then he did dress right dress. He did cover. He did a line. And then he right faced us and marched us at quick time away from the, not double time, quick time. That's just the regular left, right. Marches us just back. Just as slow as can be, And we've been standing next to this pit of C4 with the detonators pulled this whole time. And I don't know how they timed it this well, but as soon as we got back to the designated safe area, all 3 pits went off. So it was about 20 pounds in each pit. I could have some of these numbers wrong. This was a long time ago. The ground shook. It was amazing. It was, and sand and dirt and water just went forever up in the sky. And so they start yelling at us again because it's the Marine Corps. About you're such, I won't tell you what they call this. And he's like, this, I can't remember how it came up, but finally this instructor standing in front of us waving a piece of C4 around, and while he's doing this, he pulls out a lighter and he lights it on fire, and everyone's like, "Oh my God!" He lit this piece of C4 on fire, and we're sitting there, and it's burning. He's holding it in his hand, and it's on fire. And he starts yelling at us again. You're so stupid. I can't tell you what all he said because it's so vile. He said, "Just because it burns doesn't mean it's going to explode." And he throws it on the ground. He says, you gotta apply pressure to it. And then he picks up his foot and he stomps on it. And everyone just bailed, But he'd stomped right in front of it. He didn't actually stomp on it. Because apparently, if you light it on fire and stomp on it, then it's going to blow your leg off. Hey, Cronin, how you doing? Aaron Banks is in Millie Lacs Lake in Minnesota. Oh yeah, Character Matter says the same thing. You can. Damn it. You can cook on C4, just don't step on it while it's burning. Yeah, so that's what he was doing. And trust me, I never forgot that lesson. I mean, it might have taken a week before my heart rate returned to normal after that day. Claymores are made of pain and regret. They are plumb full of both. So yeah, that was the only demolitions training I got in 5 years in the Marine Corps was that one day. But I did have a tow missile, so if I really needed to blow something up, I didn't need to waste time with C4 and dead cord. I could blow something up. Yeah. The tow missile was an amazing weapon. All right, last call. Let's wrap this thing up. It is 141 minutes in. That's 2 hours and 11 minutes. What are our closing thoughts, men? Other than never do demolitions training in the Marine Corps. All right, I guess that story just blew everyone's mind. Oh, monkeypox. Yes. If you are a man who has sex with men, then prepare yourself for monkeypox. Wes S., we've got to do another tag team live stream again. Those are good. Lance Corporal Veteran says an MCT, which is Marine Combat Training, which is the other side of what I was just talking about was that ITB, Infantry Training Battalion. The other side of that is Marine Combat Training. Yeah. The School of Infantry is the umbrella group, and then it's broken up into two sides: MCT, Marine Combat Training, and ITB, Infantry Training Battalion. And if your actual MOS was infantry, you went to ITB. But if you had an MOS other than infantry, you went to MCT, and you still got some really high-end infantry training, but it didn't go into the individual infantry jobs. You just did the combined infantry training. So it was the same package up to the point where we split off, and so like, you know, the regular infantry guys would split off, and the machine gunners would go do their MOS specific, mortarmen, riflemen, and tow gunners, and the dragon gunners. They weren't in every class. I don't remember what was up with the dragon gun. The tow gunners only trained in Alpha Company too. Marine camping trip. Sharon Jones says no monkeys, period. So yeah, Lance Corporal Veteran in MCT would have done a very similar thing with the. Anyway, where was that at? I should have read what he said instead of explained it. In MCT, an instructor told us someone tried to recreate the movie scene The Rock with Nicolas Cage holding flares with magnesium perimeter flares. Of course, he melted his hands. Makes sense. Cronin's brother was a demo guy in the Army. Y'all think more lockdowns are coming? I do not. I don't think that they think they can get away with them. I think if they thought that they could get away with them, they would do them. But I don't think they can get away with it. Sharon Jones, thank you, man. Blessing to you, yours and yours as well. Avoid replacement. It's coming. It is coming. Half Tank. Later. Good evening. Thank you. Character Matters. Thank you. No kissing people who play with other people's monkeys. Thank you, Wes. Words to live by. was I at? There was something. Oh yeah, avoid replacement is coming. Yes, and well, that's a very sad story. They won that fight. It's a shame. It's a shame. Do you think they will be able to put the brakes on the inflation in the next decade? I do not. They have printed too much money. There's just too much of it out there. And they can't stop. That's the thing, they can't stop. If they could just turn off the presses right where we're at right now, have a little recession, maybe a light depression, but they won't be able to make themselves stop. They're just going to keep going and going and going. So we will continue to have astronomical inflation. We need Dustin Hoffman and Cuba Gooding Jr. to find the first host. That was that Outbreak? What movie was that? All right, Wes. The next live stream we do, I won't do another one. I'm going camping next weekend. Actually, I have a son graduating high school next weekend, and then we're going camping. Yeah, it was Outbreak. So I won't do a live stream next weekend. That's why I wanted to get one done this weekend, even though Jeff couldn't do it. So maybe the weekend after that we can do a... Yeah, spending money is a big addiction. Good night, Rat Route. Thank you, sir. Get some Eva Cassidy to listen to. We'll do it. Wes S. wants Rob to catch him up on replacement theory. We could have done 2 hours on replacement theory itself. Remind me, replacement theory is a little bit like QAnon in that it kind of means whatever the individual wants it to mean. But the main gist of it is that the elites have found Americans too tough to manipulate and control, and so they want to replace us with immigrants from other places that are easier to control. And that's why they do everything to suppress our birth rates and to import as many immigrants as possible. It doesn't necessarily have to have a racial component to it, but most people have given it a racial component. Thank you, Sharon. I will tell him hi. Jeff actually has a daughter graduating in the same class, so we both have kids graduating. This shooter in Buffalo, it was one of the things he cited in his manifesto, and so the press is just up in arms about it right now, and they've made it their outrage of the moment is replacement theory and how racist it is. And it can be racist. The racist can use it. But it's not racist. It's just true. It's just a fact. Even if it's not that they want more docile voters. They think that if they can import immigrants who rely upon them for welfare, that they will always vote for Democrats. The crazy thing is that these white Democrats got it in their heads that these immigrants are going to keep voting for white people just because they're Democrats. And it is asinine. They will vote for people who look like them. Buffalo has far too many parallels to New Zealand. Boring sandwich. I am fairly convinced it's a copycat, and I'm pretty sure they're false flags too. Yeah, the Manchurian Candidate. If y'all aren't familiar with that movie, most of you are. It was this movie about this Vietnam veteran who came back and ran for president, and it turns out he'd been brainwashed, and he was like a sleeper agent. He was like the Winter Soldier, sort of. And I lean more towards these two shooters, the New Zealand shooter and the Buffalo shooter, being Antifa types who who want to make the right look like crazy racist. And because we're not as crazy or as racist as they claim we are, they have to go fake it. Yeah, that's the other thing, Aaron, is that the Latino community is really proven to be winnable. You can win Latino votes. Hispanic, they prefer the term Hispanic, I think. You can win the Hispanic vote. This is backfiring in a major way. The Cubans have always been very open to conservative politics. Now the Venezuelans are proven to be quite conservative, or at least open to conservatism. And I think there was another group. I don't remember who it was though. So this is not a done deal. And this is why it's so important that we don't let it get racialized, because then they won't have a choice. If we tell people, if we make people choose their race or us, they'll choose their race, and that's not illegitimate. All of their loved ones are their race. Their family members, their children, their brothers and sisters and their friends are all their race. If we force them to choose, they will. But if we give them the option to be conservative and still be, Mexican or Venezuelan or Cuban or whatever, what have you, we can win these people, and we can keep our guns, and we can keep the monkey kissers out of power, and we can overturn abortion, and we can do a lot of good things if we can keep this stuff from getting racialized, and if we can cooperate with these Hispanics and the areas we cooperate on, because we have a lot in common with them. We have a lot in common with them. There's far more. We have far more in common than we have separate. I wonder what Papucho McFly said. Okay, I missed some stuff. The Latino community was one of the main. Okay, that's not Cubans. Cubans vote Republican. Yeah, Cubans are very reliably conservative. Sharon Jones says that the shooter was possibly MK Ultra'd in the mental health facility last year. The Buffalo shooter had one of the parade ladies' names written on his handguard. I'm not sure who the parade ladies are, Cronin. Local and national communities of self-hating rich political intellectuals are the ones pushing to copy other countries from around the world. The problem is that Latinos tend to vote against gun rights and for social programs. So, Cronin, they do tend to the gun rights are not integral to them, or they're not very important to them, and they do like a social safety net. But what I've been reading is that they don't necessarily want this huge overarching federal government in control of everything. They want, a certain amount of Social Security and, help old people and unemployment insurance, stuff that's already in place. They don't necessarily want to increase any of these things. We do have to sell them on the Second Amendment. However, they're on our side when it comes to abortion and the homosexual lunacy. But their Catholic faith does make the death penalty and self-defense and guns is not as a natural thing to them as it is for us. So that's where we have to sell them. I don't think that's as hard to sell as some people do. I think that's a pretty easy argument to make, and I think they'll hear us on it. But you're right. Those things are true, but they're not to the extreme that American leftists are. All right, communism and socialism don't work. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm missing. The cartels love more Latinos here because it broadens their reach in our country. That is true. We could solve that, though, by just locking down the damn border. A large number of black people I knew were all about Trump as well. If not for electing him, then after he was in, they saw what he was about. Yeah, Trump did better than anyone ever had, any Republican ever has with black folks, especially black men. Boring Sandwich says, I think it's completely reasonable to self-segregate along ideological lines. Let them have California and New York. I'll stay in the Ozarks. Boring Sandwich, we were talking about this earlier in the live stream. What comes out of all this? Do we go back to a radical federalism, or does it devolve into sectarian violence? Cronin lives in San Diego. Get out, Cronin. Lance Corporal Veteran says the issue with Hispanic Latinos is culturally they don't have the same gun culture as the U.S. Remember, most of their revolutions were elitist leftists. Yes. In fact, the Mexican Revolution went in tandem and basically along with the Russian Revolution, the Soviet Revolution, the Communist Revolution. Yeah, the Buffalo shooter was a self-avowed communist. Oh, white ladies that got, okay, so the parade ladies was the white ladies that got run over by the black driver in the parade in Waukesha. Huh. The Buffalo shooter was a self-avowed communist. The Hispanics that voted for Trump were second or third or more generation American citizen. The nationalized or first generations vote for welfare and handouts. I've kind of noticed that they're also entrepreneurs and small business owners, which is another avenue in. These people like to work. And they don't like anything to get in the way of their work. Lance Corporal Veteran is third generation. And Lance Corporal Veteran's one of us. Lance Corporal Veteran is a third generation of a mixed race Hispanic family and third generation of military service. Yeah, I served with a guy from Puerto Rico, or his family was, I think he grew up in Florida, but he was born in Puerto Rico. He's a great Marine. We're still friends. Some of my best friends are Puerto Rican. Does that sound desperate? True for some Catholics, but not all. Many are very pro-Second Amendment and pro-death penalty. Oh, thank you, Paul Ammerman. I didn't know that. Aaron Goodman is talking to Lance Corporal Veteran. Cronin is dying to transfer to a free state. Okay, I'm running out of steam. Lance Corporal Veteran, we appreciate you, sir. All the rest of you, we appreciate you. Thank you for an excellent live stream. I am going to, what time is it? Oh, it's 1 o'clock. I might go to bed. I might work on a few projects. Here, I'll show you one of my projects I'm working on. This is a cheap Harbor Freight hatchet with a terrible handle. So I've been working on the handle a little bit tonight. It's coming along okay. I'm doing all right. I removed a fair amount of wood. I'm gonna take more. I'm gonna take more off of everything, but I'm gonna get more of a taper and a curve. Should be a decent hatchet when I get the handle down, but right now the handle is just atrocious. It's made in India, and I don't know what's wrong with Indians' hands, but they make the worst axe handles I've ever. It's like they hate hands. It's like they're hoping to give you arthritis or something. I don't know. I don't understand what's going on with Indian axe makers and handles, but it's weird. I've also got another project I'm on that's a much more of a long-term project that may be working its way towards something I can tell you guys about, but not quite yet. So anyway, men, we appreciate you. Thank you. Have a good night.